My name is Jared, and this week in Rideshare, we talk about accidents and deactivations and if they're connected. And as always, Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. Great to be back.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about today, and obviously the focus is something we have talked about, which is, accidents and deactivations. It's something that I think drivers are concerned about, and it's something that potentially could affect them if they don't know what their rights are. But first, I just wanted to let everyone know, what you do and how Legal Rideshare can help.
Sure. So Legal Rideshare is the first law firm in the United States that's entirely dedicated to Uber, Lyft, and gig-related accident and injury claims. So what does that mean? Legal Rideshare will step in and help represent you if you find yourself in an accident or injured on the job, and fight for you to recover everything that you're entitled to under the law. So if you get hurt, if we're talking cost of medical treatment, lost wages, pain and suffering, any damage that's available, we are going to fight to ensure that that money goes in your pocket and that you're compensated to the max.
Which is great, and that's really that's very important for our conversation today. And before we really get into the deactivation part of this, accidents are really complex, and it's not as simple as just I had an accident and it's taken care of, as you know, and drivers are learning about this. So I think it's important that we also just sort of cover what are some of the first steps that you should take just after an accident. So the accident happens, whether it's your fault or not. What should drivers be doing?
Well, really, you want to make sure that you're reporting the incident to the police. You want to report the incident to Uber or Lyft. A lot of drivers are hesitant to do that because they're fearful of the repercussions. But when we're talking about insurance claims, notice is really important. The insurance companies need to be aware that this event occurred so that they can provide coverage for it. And when I say the word coverage, that means money. That means money to fix your vehicle, money to compensate you for your losses. If you're at fault for the accident, it means money for the other person so that that individual is not coming after you personally. You want the companies and the insurance providers to be aware of the event, to have the facts, and to pay out to the people who are injured in the event. We also encourage drivers to collect information and evidence at the scene. So take photos of the vehicles, talk to your passengers and get their contact information, get the other driver's insurance. All of this stuff is going to be harder to locate and to gather once you leave the accident scene. So when you're at the accident scene, make sure that you're taking the steps that you need to protect yourself and to set the foundation for the claim down the road.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question, there's something I always ask drivers about police reports. How important is it for a driver to stop and get that police report?
It's very important. So a lot of drivers don't want to take the time to bring the police to the scene. Sometimes I hear that police officers are not willing to come to the scene if there's not some major injury. Regardless, you want to go to you want to make the report, whether that's at the scene, going to the police station to document it. Like I said, that is going to be the initial evidence in the case. The police officer is going to gather insurance information, contact information, witness information, and all of these pieces of evidence are going to go into the police report. Somebody like me comes in after the fact representing you. That's going to be the first place that I look to try to get in touch with the right people, request evidence that might, expire at some point, such as video from the scene. It's just vital that you make that report so that the foundation of your case is set and is strong.
And as far as the evidence, as you bring this up all the time, evidence does not get better with age or time. And the other thing, too, that I don't think drivers are aware of is that if there is a concern or there's an accident and you, again, need that evidence, it's pretty crucial also to speak to your passengers if you have passengers, because from what I understand, Uber will not release the information of the passenger. Is that correct?
Yeah, in order for Uber to provide that information, a lot of times you need to file a lawsuit, issue a subpoena. If you could just gather the passenger's information, turn around and say, hey, I'm really sorry that this event happened, but I need your name and your phone number so that we can be in touch later in case there's an insurance claim or God forbid somebody's hurt. That's going to be much easier than bringing on a lawyer who's got to file the lawsuit, issue a subpoena. Uber's going to fight it. Eventually, we'll get the information, but the situation I just described seems to be a much quicker, simpler process, and the passenger really shouldn't have any problem providing that very basic information after you've been in this traumatic event together.
Yeah, and I do understand some drivers feel uncomfortable doing it, but just like you said, it just gets so much harder the longer time goes on. Even something as simple as just simply getting a cell phone number from a passenger to confirm, no, I was not at fault. They hit me, and I have someone to prove it. Which really brings me to the topic at hand here. And again, something that I've noticed is really a concern for drivers, rightfully so, is the deactivations. So what I'm seeing, and you probably are as well, is we're getting a lot of calls and emails from drivers who are coming to us late, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, and saying, well, I was in an accident, it was pretty bad, but I was afraid of getting deactivated, and so I just didn't want to report it, or I didn't want to talk to an attorney, or I didn't want to, get medical treatment because I need to drive. How devastating is it that they're doing that?
Well, that's a two-part question. First, the time delay is detrimental to the case. As you said earlier, Jared, the cases do not get better with time. You want to bring in a representative early so that we can help answer these questions for you, point you in the right direction, explain what the pitfalls are. Like if you delay getting medical treatment, the insurance companies are going to really put their foot down and say, we don't think this person was injured, because in their words, people who are hurt go to the doctor. If you wait 3 months, 6 months, a year before your first doctor's appointment, it's going to be almost impossible to establish that the accident was the cause of those pains. They're going to say, well, how do we know he didn't fall down at home, or didn't have a sports injury, or they let their imaginations go wild, and we have then the burden of showing, no, this delay in treatment, you shouldn't pay attention to that. He was hurt. He was at home. It just makes our job much more difficult. And then from the fear of deactivation, well, to claim that you're going to be deactivated based on reporting an accident or hiring a lawyer or claiming an injury, that's just not something that we're seeing. We're not seeing retaliation based on insurance claims. What you need to understand is when you're filing these claims, you're not really going after your employer. This is not a workers' compensation system. You're going through their insurance company, which you're paying for. You have every ride that you take, there's money that comes out to help pay for this insurance. You're tapping into coverage that is afforded to you, that you're entitled to, and that if you make missteps or delays along the way, it's just going to be harder for you to collect what is yours.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there. That's something that's really important, is that you're not right. You're not going after Uber, and they're not retaliating in response to you taking their money. It's not dropping their stock price. First off, you have insurance. That's the key to a lot of this. And like you said, it's not this retaliation, and it's not uncommon. I think, obviously, a lot of drivers, they get in an accident, it's not very often. And so when they do, or their first major accident where they're injured, I think there's a lot. They're overwhelmed. And, the first thing they think is, I just want to make this as painless as possible without any friction. And I think there's sort of this fear that, well, then I'm going to have, I'm going to be versus Uber and Lyft on top of all my other issues if I decide, well, I need to file a claim. But as you said, you're not going after them. You're tapping into the things you're already paying money for. And I think that's really important. I think drivers need to understand that.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's important to say, we can't predict every single driver's end result. That when drivers do come and say that they've been deactivated after an accident, after a little bit of digging, you realize that it wasn't the accident that was the cause of the deactivation or the insurance claim. It's that this person had, 5 other events before. So when we talk about, are you going to be deactivated after filing an insurance claim? Our experience is if that's the only thing that you're doing and there hasn't been some pattern of misconduct or pattern of lots of accidents or whatever it could be, the filing of an insurance claim is not going to be the thing that causes your deactivation. So please, like, come to us and have these conversations. Tell us what you're concerned about, and we can really hash out what's the likely outcome here. And almost every time, our our advice is going to be, if you're hurt, you're entitled to the insurance, and the risk of deactivation just really isn't there.
Yeah, and that's, as we know, we've talked about this before with with IDG and other companies. I mean, Uber and Lyft and these gig companies, they can deactivate, for any sorts of reasons. So the fact of not getting the treatment you need or the compensation you deserve simply for deactivation doesn't make sense to me, because ultimately you could be deactivated down the road for something you didn't do, and now you're injured on top of it, and now you have medical bills on top of it. I think it's just better to be proactive. And like you said, we're happy to talk to drivers. I talk to drivers every single day, as do you. And 99% of the time, it's just answering questions. It's not something that we would handle, but it's certainly something that we're willing to talk about and get them in the right direction. I think that's very crucial. And I think we need to discuss a little bit more about the education process here too. You had mentioned, which is really important, about filing the claims and getting the coverage, and then you also clarified coverage equals money. And I don't think that's stressed enough. So I want to kind of break this down into just two things here. So, from what I understand, I know there's a lot of other areas here, but as far as recovering, you know, the first thing is really recovering physical. And what does that look like? As far as, okay, so I'm injured, I call LegalRideshare. Where does the physical aspect come in as far as getting that recovery?
Right. So the first thing that you need to do is get into a doctor. And we would encourage you, like, go get checked out right after an accident. Go to an urgent care, an emergency room, a primary care doctor, and make sure that you're telling the provider what happened. I was involved in a rear end accident. I'm a little stiff. I think I might be okay, but I'm not sure. Like, you want to be describing your physical well-being so that there's documentation of the event and that you're concerned about it. If that's the only thing that you need for all your treatment, and then you're fine afterwards, great. Then the accident wasn't so bad. You handled it well, and now you can move on with your life. But if your injury persists or gets worse, you've now, again, laid a solid foundation for the case, having treatment in close proximity to the accident. And then you can start your treatment plan, whether that's physical therapy, seeing primary care doctor, pain management, going to an orthopedic. Like, whatever it is that you need, you can then go forward with those next steps to ensure that your body recovers for this event. That should be the primary concern, is your physical well-being. And the sooner that you can get in for treatment, the more likely it's going to be that you make a full recovery in an efficient period of time.
Right, and obviously, like you said, that's the most crucial, is your life, your livelihood, making sure that you can physically do the things you used to, including driving. Unlike, I know you've discussed this before on other shows. It's when Uber and Lyft drivers get in accidents and get injured, it's not just, oh, okay, well, I can't drive. I mean, this is their way of life. And so if you start having back pain or disc problems and you don't get checked out, it's going to be really hard to do the thing that you're making your money to do. It's not just, okay, well, now I'm going to need to have someone take me to work. That's really crucial. And then obviously the second part is, and the key here is, so you get to recover physically, but I think you need to also help educate our viewers and drivers on what it means financially, what they recover. I don't think drivers understand how much is at stake financially for them to get back.
Yeah, well, there's multiple levels of coverage, and there's different damages that you can tap into. So first of it is the cost of the medical treatment. The insurance provides that it will compensate you for the cost of the medical treatment. So if you go to the hospital, if you go to the primary care doctor, if you've got physical therapy, those are all things that I can work and do work to get back in your pocket. Whether those bills are paid by you, by insurance, um, or continue to be outstanding until the auto insurance claim settles, we're going to make sure that that money goes back to you or goes to the doctor if they need to be paid, thereby meaning that you're not out of pocket or in debt those costs. The second thing is the wage loss. So when you are off the road because of an injury, you're entitled to recover the money that you lost. And what I would do is I'd look at your past earnings and determine what your average weekly wage would be. And if you miss a week, then we're going to fight to get that week of pay back. If you miss a month, same story. So you are entitled to recover the money that you lose that comes out of your pocket during this period of recovery. And then there's also what we call general damages, which is the pain and suffering, the loss of normal life. There is thousands of dollars in compensation available to somebody who documents, through the medical records, through evidence, through testimony, that they were limited for a period of time, that they couldn't perform their activities of daily living, and that they were suffering throughout that process. So when we talk about an accident claim and we start adding up costs of medical treatment, lost wages, pain and suffering, we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and can you clarify, and I think you did, but just to make it clear, when you say loss of normal life, that is, give an example of what that would be and how that would affect a driver.
Yeah, so you always or often hear the terms pain and suffering. Well, that's the pain. That's, ouch, my arm hurts. The loss of normal life are the things that you can't do because of that pain. So if you have little kids and you've got your back's bothering you and you can't pick them up for a couple months because it's just too painful to do, that the inability to perform that activity would be an example of the loss of normal life. And it doesn't just have to be child rearing. It can be, I enjoy playing basketball on the weekends and I can't do that. Or it hurts when I drive and driving is now severely limited. So you can think of a million different examples of those activities that you're limited in either temporarily or permanently, which you're entitled to compensation for.
All right, last major question. How much does it cost to talk to us about all of these situations?
$0. So our consultations are always free. If you get into an accident, if you're injured, reach out to us and we will have a conversation, a consultation about what happened, about what you may be entitled to, about what the process would look like. We're not associated with any of the rideshare companies. It's not like reaching out to us is going to trigger something on, through those companies. So there's really no reason in terms of cost or risk to pick up the phone and talk with us about what you're going through and about what your options are.
Well, thank you, Brian. I think this is really helpful. It's something, again, that we have discussed privately, and I've spoken to other drivers about it, and I think it was really important to bring it up and put it into a video so people can refer to it later. Before we do sign off, though, I'd like to just give you this last word to talk about Legal Rideshare before we head off.
Sure. So anytime we sign off any one of these things, we like to remind everybody to reach out to us early if something happens. LegalRideshare.com has all of our contact information. We respond very quickly. So, reach out, get in touch with us, and we are happy to offer a consultation if you find yourself hurt on the job.
Thank you, Brian. And as always, that's the end of This Week in Rideshare. See you next week.